to you on these matters. We would look for time to bring you back on the program so we can talk some more on these issues. Of course, these issues are still in play, and we should be able to revisit them sometime real soon. Thank you so much for coming on Insight.
Thank you very much for having me.
Next, we take a look at how flooding in various parts of the country is wreaking havoc and causing further hardships on people already burdened by the impact of COVID-19. Almost every region of the country has witnessed massive flooding, displacing thousands, damaging livelihoods and threatening our national food supply. Let's get a sense of how serious the issues are. Sani Dododo is the chairman, Kebbi State Emergency Management Agency, joins me from Birnin Kebbi. Emeka Obinwa is also with us. He is the Executive Assistant Media to the Anambra State Governor on SEMA. He joins us from Oka, Anambra State. Gentlemen, welcome to Insight. I'll just go ahead with the chairman, SEMA Kebbi State. Can you give us a sense of how massive the damages are in your state?
Yes, exactly. Kebbi State is really affected by massive flood. Because most of the local government are now submerged. That is the Fadama area of Kebbi State of about 600 kilometers was submerged by flood. Because right from the Birnin Tudu in our local government, which is bordering Sokoto State, down to Toga Bridge in Bagudo local government, also in Kebbi State, which cover about 350 kilometers. That is the river Bakalori submerged. And then from Toga Bridge in Bagudo local government, in Geske local government, which is very close to Kanji Dam, bordering charging point of this water is about 250 kilometers, is also submerged. So even the focus given to us earlier by the National Emergency, by NIMET, yes, that about 11 local government out of 102 in Nigeria, Kebbi State is expected to have 11 local government. Now, almost all the local government in Kebbi State are now affected by this flood. There is no local government in Kebbi State which is not affected by flood, as at this material time I'm talking to you. So, honestly speaking, it comes to the extent that this year, all our farmers, be it retired civil servant, service civil servant, peasant farmers, and even large-scale farmers, everybody engaged in farming this year. But all what has been planted, especially rice, is now submerged by water here in Kebbi State. So honestly speaking,
that's quite unfortunate because Kebbi State is known
Kebbi State is really, have a problem. Yeah.
Yes. I was just saying that is quite unfortunate because we do know Kebbi State for rice cultivation. How has that affected this year's planting season for rice?
Well, I think this year's rice, honestly speaking, we have to go back for the dry season farming. But the wet season farming, which is a period now, there's nothing we can do about it. It has been taken by the flood. But His Excellency, my governor, and even this our agency, and even the federal government, now put head together. You see, recently the Minister of Agriculture visited Kebbi, and then we are putting head together to see what we can do to go back to the dry season farming immediately after the water has recessed. But as at now, there is nothing, no hope about the rice farming season in Kebbi State at this material time.
Emeka Obinwa, this is an issue that should be, quite relatable for you, because I do know that in the Anambra East and West axis of Anambra State, going from Ayamelum to Anam and some riverine communities, Ogbaru and others by the river bank, by the river Niger. These are communities that year in, year out out get submerged, by flooding. This year that hasn't happened yet. But what are we hearing? What are we seeing on the ground? Is there growing fear that communities might be submerged again, going by the forecast coming from NIMET and other agencies? Are the people living in fear already in anticipation of what might come?
Thanks, Nnamdi. Going by the predictions of the relevant agencies, the NISA, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, and NIMET, there is this fear that more local governments will be submerged this season because they predicted early rains from February that will last till late December this year. And going by the prediction, they added some local governments that hitherto are not affected by flood. Some of these local governments are the upland local governments like Njikoka local government, like Idemili North, and others. So we are taking into account of the and that's why the State Emergency Management Agency has already led off its sensitization program to all local governments and communities along the flood-prone areas in Anambra State.
Okay, how worried are the rice farmers around the Ayamelum axis and Ayamelum, Anam, and Ogbaru axis, where the areas popularly known for the planting of rice, for rice cultivation? Are there fears from that area as well?
Yes, there's this palpable fear that their efforts in planting some of these food crops will be nullity. And it formed a sensitization message that they should start early to begin to harvest their farm products so that they are not submerged when the flood comes.
It's a good thing that you've brought up the issue of population awareness and preparedness. It's one of the proactive flood control measures besides other proactive measures. Since you said that that has already begun, what feelers are you getting from communities previously impacted, and how has that helped you to perhaps prepare your message, and is that helping to change minds in communities? Are you perhaps thinking of relocating people earlier from communities previously impacted, just to circumvent or just to mitigate, or rather to preempt whatever might be or might happen if the flood does come?
Yes, during our sensitization campaign, we advised them to be prepared, just like the Scout mantra would say, be prepared. We asked them to pack their belongings, their important belongings, their medicaments, clothes, certificates, and other, so they are very, very useful to them, and get them so that at any point in time they are asked to leave, they will just pick them and then vacate.
Okay, that's good to know. I'll go back now to...
Yes, it formed part of the message, but, the people received this message with mixed feelings.
Okay.
Some said they were not going to move because they are in tune with the, with the nature in that place, that this has been happening to them. They're not going to move. But in this circumstance, we have to use persuasion. We have to advise them on the need in order not to lose life. Because life first in everything you do. Life first. So we use persuasion, ask them to move. So those of them that that would heed to the advice are evacuated to holding centers, the state government, through the benevolence of His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Anambra State, Chief Dr. Willie Obiano, has in his wisdom approved some funds to make sure that all these holding centers are made habitable for these flood victims. And it starts coming.
Okay, thank you. I'll go over now to Sani Dododo in Brennan Kirby. Well, we as part of we do know of the other long-term measures, preparatory measures. But let me take you up on the issue of population awareness and sensitization of the populace, especially in some of these areas impacted by flooding now. I mean, how much of a campaign did the state government, in fact, did your agency, SEMA, carry out in some of these areas? And did you succeed in moving some communities away before the flood submerged them?
Well, exactly. Immediately we received the signal from the NAMIT that about 11 local government are going to be affected. We immediately summoned the meeting of all the chairmen of those local government, including the traditional rulers and even the Commissioner for Local Government and Constituency Affairs in Kebbi State. We intimated them that flood is imminent. They have to go back and start sensitization. There are people in this local government mentioned earlier. But when we discovered that it has gone beyond that, we also invited all the 4 emirates in Kebbi State, that's the stakeholders, including security agencies, religious leaders, and traditional rulers, and even the paramilitary and even the military. We sat down with them. We said, please, gentlemen, you go back and touch your bell and start informing people about the danger of the flooding here in Kebbi State. And know fully that Kebbi State is just like a valley. And if you look at the geographical position of Kebbi State, it is like a valley. And then all the 2 dams, that one in Gorenyo, the other one in Bakalori, are now discharging water in Kebbi State. And then the Dolake Agazis, which is the local government, which is bordering Niger Republic, also the water for in Cameroon and the Niger Republic are also discharging water in Kebbi State. And then we have what you call about Zampara, that is the Agazis of Gumi and part of Shagari in Sokoto State, are now discharging water also in Jega local government area, where we have the capsize of boat last time when we lost about 10 people, 8 people that were able to to rescue 2 people out of 10, but all the 8 has died. And then by knowing the position of our state, we vigorously embark on sensitization for our people to be relocated to the higher lands so that life and property should be safe. But when the water comes, with all the effort and sensitization, we are dealing with the nature. There's nothing you can do about it. But all the same, His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Kebbi State, Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu Motola Ngwandu, has gone around himself, including the official of my agency. We have gone around day and night, go in and sensitize and even try to relocate people to the upland or to the higher land. Now, in Kebbi State, we have so many, IDP centers, where we relocate people, most especially at Bagudu local government. And now we have highly 50 low-risk local government where we have the flooding seriously. And even the upland local government are not affected. But what we are doing now is that we have 2 problems at hand. One, the collapsing and demolition of the houses by water, and then the flooding. So flooding of farms and even the houses of people in the villages and the communities are also affected by this flood. So we have a serious problem in Kebbi State. But we are still embarking on sensitization and even electing people through radio, television, the town criers, and even at traditional institutions during a marriage ceremony, naming ceremony, wherever we have a little gathering, we try to sensitize our people about this problem of flooding. So in terms of sensitization, we are doing everything humanly possible to educate our people about this flooding here in Kebbi State.
Okay, so I understand that most primary schools in Argungu have been converted into shelter for those displaced by the flooding. We're in a period of the pandemic. Was still reeling from the effects of the pandemic. What is the state government through SEMA doing to ensure that these displaced persons, do not,
9 designated, we have about 9 designated centers where we, locate people in Argungu town only.
Okay.
So if you take the whole Argungu local government, we have about 15 to 25 IDP centers.
Okay, but my question really isn't on the center. I'm more concerned about the welfare of the people. What are you doing to ensure that, they don't suffer much more than they already are owing to the flooding? There's COVID-19 on the one hand, and now they have been displaced by the flooding. What are you doing to ensure that, they get some sort of relative ease, from the tension and pressure, as it were? Did you get my question, sir?
So what do we normally do when we have this problem? Well, we immediately, jointly with
Okay, we seem to be having some issues with Sani Dodo's connection from Benin Kebbi. I'll move on over now to Emeka Obinwa.
All the people who are relocated.
I'll move over to Emeka Obinwa in Awka, Anambra State. Are you still there? Great. Okay, so
yes,
year in, year out, like we talked about earlier, we get flooding in parts of Anambra. As a matter of fact, in some cases, even in the state's capital, we experience flash flooding in Awka, the state's capital. What are some of the factors responsible for these, and what is the state government doing to ensure that it doesn't happen as it has happened in previous years?
One of the major problems is that people build on water channels, on drainages. And again, people emptying their refuse in. They have been pulling down houses that are built on flood channels. They have been on air warning people to desist, to stop from building on flood channels, on drainages. And they have been pulling those houses down.
Okay.
The Minister of Environment had engaged the workers to begin to clear the drainages. Even they have extended this invitation to local governments to make sure that all the drainages are desilted and the refuse are cleared so that the flood water will have easy way down to the channels.
Emeka Obinwa, I'll get your final words now that I have you before I move over to Benin Kebbi. What are your final words on the program as we look ahead and look forward to better times? A time when flooding would not displace, especially indigent members from their communities.
Well, I will advise them on behalf of STEMA to be prepared, to be evacuated when the flood comes. Thanks to His Excellency, the Governor of Anambra State, Dr. Willie Obiano, for making funds available to make sure that these holding centers are made habitable, are cleaned and fumigated to make sure that the flood victims are housed in these holding centers, that they are comfortable and they don't suffer unduly because of flood attack when it comes.
Thank you so much, Emeka Obinwa.
The situation.
Okay. I'll just move over now to Benin Kebbi, where I have Sani Dododo. Is he still there? If you're there, I would like to get your final words. You were speaking earlier to the issue of efforts being put in place to alleviate the plight of persons displaced by flooding in Kebbi State. And can you just quickly take that as your final words, please?
Well, I think I have to thank my governor, His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Kebbi State, Dr. Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, by providing adequate fund for the agency. And not only that, His Excellency released fund to all the local government in order to also complement the effort of the agency, that is our agency, SEMA. His Excellency is always also making money available to his wives also to go around with her project to see what she can do as a medical doctor to assist the younger ones to provide medication. And on the end, we provide medication, food items, mosquito net, mosquito coil, even cooking pots and even firewood for all the displaced person in order to cater for them to be protected and provide and to make environment, enable environment for them so that they will feel like government is with them. And not only that, we are visiting them from time to time together with all the officials of the local government, director, social director, works, and director, who are our desk officers, so that we have contact. Even our emirs and the traditional rulers, religious rulers, we jointly together, and we have a task force where we have the local government committee on SEMA going around to sensitize and even taking care of all those people, providing security, toilet facilities, and food items, and even the medication. So, we also have, I want to use the opportunity to thank Mr. single-handedly for issuing a statement about the issue in Kebbi State through his media aides, and also the Minister of Humanitarian, Haja Saidia, also for even mentioning my name single-handedly and the Sioma Kebbi State for our effort to cater for our people at this period, at this testing period.
Great.
So, I have to thank you.
We're out of time now. Sani Dododo, Chairman, Kebbi State Emergency Management Agency, Meka Obimwa, Executive Assistant to the Governor, Media on SEMA. I want to thank you both gentlemen for coming on Insight. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for coming on Insight.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed.
Up next is the Media Review segment.
Thanks for joining us on the Media Review segment this week. Primary health care is a grassroots management approach to providing healthcare services to communities. Various countries have attained different levels of progress. How can the government redirect resources for healthcare from curative services to preventive services in order to provide primary healthcare infrastructures, encourage the migration of health workers from urban to rural areas, and provide acceptable level of healthcare services for all, thereby reducing the gross inequality in health status of the people? These are some of the areas my guest, Dr. Jane Igali, a family physician, will critically take a look at. Dr. Jane, it's nice to have you in our studio.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you are a stakeholder in the health sector. How would you assess primary health care in Nigeria currently?
Like most aspects of our healthcare, it's implementation that we look at. You know, most times people talk about primary healthcare and then there's no distinct difference between primary healthcare and the medical practice itself, like what you just said, preventive healthcare and curative. So most times we talk about primary health care, and what comes into your mind is what are we doing in the primary health care environment, you know, the hospitals, the primary health care institutions and all that. But the thing is, primary health care, the reason why primary health care was instituted in the first place was not just because of the curative part. It was about preventive all the way. And when you want to assess primary health care, you have to assess it through what it is supposed to give that it is not giving now. And that's why when we're talking about what to do to change the effects that primary health care has brought to our system, we should be looking at what it is not doing yet. That is the prevention that it has not brought to the table.
Okay. All right. We understand that the Buhari administration has done so much in terms of primary health care and then has put so much attention to resources, placement of resources into the health sector. Now, there's the issue of migration, health workers' migration from the urban to the rural areas. Why is this a challenge?
Health care workers will always migrate if the environment they work is not conducive. The same thing with what is happening in other aspects of healthcare in Nigeria, that healthcare workers are migrating away from Nigeria itself to other countries. That is because the people just want a situation where they feel better taken care of, better remuneration, better equipment, and other things that they work with. Now, in the local areas, so many other things come to play. It's not just about how much the healthcare worker is being paid. We talk about electricity. We talk about access. In fact, primary health care cannot happen just by the health sector. It is supposed to be one of the principles of the primary health care delivery itself. It's intersectoral coordination, different sectors coming together to achieve the thing that the health sector is, or make it something that the effect of what the health sector is doing is reaching the people. And this can only happen when all the sectors are working together and providing the amenities that are affecting health in different aspects. Like, for an example, for a health worker to be in a local place, like you want to work in a primary health care located in a village that does not have accessible road, for an example, you would first of all think about your health traveling on the road, and thinking about health insurance for the health worker himself and other things. You look at it and, is this risk worth taking? And then you now go to the villages and realize that preventable diseases like just malaria, it's more there because the environment is not taken care of. So mosquitoes are breeding more, and so the people are more exposed to preventable diseases in those rural areas. So the healthcare workers themselves have the issues of their own health being at stake through the roads and other things. And if they themselves need health care, what level of health care can they access being with their families in the village to take care of other people's health? So it's not just about them migrating or equipping the primary health care center, as it were, as to intersectoral coordination of every aspect of society working. So when primary health care is not delivering what it is supposed to deliver, it's not just about the fact that we don't have essential drugs in the hospital. That is not the only thing that is affecting it. It's every aspect of society working together. That is what it is supposed to be in the first place. And that is one of the reasons why healthcare workers tend to migrate from local areas to urban areas, and very difficult for them to migrate back because of their families and their personal health too.
Let's talk about the issue of acceptance. How is primary health care accepted in rural areas? And I'm happy your specialization speaks volume to our focus.
It's supposed to be, by its definition, the essential health care that is available to them, right? But through their own participation. They are supposed to, the people in the community are supposed to be the ones accepting this health care and participating in it. For example, when you talk about diarrhea, and the management of diarrhea entails a lot of, dehydration comes in, and you would require rehydration therapy, right? Now, in primary health care, you are making both the people that have the diarrhea, like the mother that has the child with the diarrhea, participate in giving this health care. So she is participating in delivering and learning how to give rehydration therapy by herself. So if it's about acceptance or acceptability, primary healthcare is readily accepted because they are the ones that are part of delivery also. But then, when it is not understood and the patients you're treating are not participating in the primary health care, we now start talking about accepting the health care, that is the medical care that is available in the medical health center. And health education is one of the components of primary health care. And that is supposed to be the solution to this. Because when people understand what they are going through, and they understand that they can participate in the solution they get, and they know they can access that solution in the primary health care, then they will naturally avail themselves in the primary health care to be treated by the personnel that are there. So this education, health education, and information should be at their fingertips. These are the things I can get in the primary health care. And I think that is one of the things that are affecting acceptance, like you said, of primary healthcare centers in the population.
Tell us how critical it is for us to equip PHCs so that we don't have people travel to other states or cities for health services?
Yeah, it is very, very critical, if there is any other word I can use. If the people that are supposed to be treated in 5 minutes just because the primary health care is close to them are using maybe 1 or 2 days to get to the secondary healthcare system, you're already exposing the population to higher risk of whatever thing that would have been preventable, you see. So if we equip the healthcare, the primary healthcare system, and train the personnel that are supposed to manage them, and bring in more confidence in the society so they know that these things are accessible and you can be treated in these places, you know, it will bring a lot of good to the healthcare system of the country. It's not just about the equipment itself, like I said. Of course, equipment is necessary, but there are some healthcare, primary healthcare centers that have what it takes to take care of the people around, but they are not still assessed. So before we talk about government equipping everywhere, before people can access it, let's talk about what we can do to help the people get prevention that they can even access. Because that in itself makes the healthcare system, the primary healthcare system, at least working.
Dr. Jane, I would like to come in there. How can we reposition our primary healthcare system?
Implementation. Implementation of everything that government has promised the healthcare system. Community participation must be looked back on. How is the community participating in their own health? So you are not just waiting for them to say, there are no drugs in the primary healthcare, so I want to go to the teaching hospital. How are you participating in your own health? Because that is one of the major principles of primary healthcare. And if these things are not looked at, primary healthcare can work. And the other one is intersectoral coordination, then appropriate technology that the people themselves can use, you know, to assess and help themselves.
Dr. Jane Igali, a family physician, thank you so much for coming to our studio to enlighten us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's it on the Media Review segment this week.
And that's it on this episode of the program. Do join us same time next week for more on Insights. I'm Nnamdi Odiko.
And I'm Elizabeth Omori. Stay safe.